Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Mel Vandevort. Have you ever wondered what it takes to be a district superintendent? Well, you're in luck. Whether it's the juggling of school bells, deciphering budget reports like a financial wizard, or mastering the art of those appearances at PTA meetings and other school events, these district superheroes have a knack for making tough decisions while expertly dodging the spotlight of success. They ensure that everyone gets credit for the fantastic things happening in school districts. So join me today on a journey to demystify the life of a school district superintendent. Let's get started. Hi, friend. Are you ready to move into a leadership position? Do you have interests and ambitions that you want to pursue, but feel like you don't know how to take that next step? Maybe you want to start your own coaching or consulting agency. I'm Mel, and I help educators define their career path through correct mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for your career transition. I will show you how to level up your leadership skills, share your expertise in a new way, create impact on a larger scale, and put your leadership in motion. As an educator for over 20 years, I started to feel underused and like I had more to give. I knew when the time had come for me to leave the classroom and affect change on a larger level. Now, I'm ready to help you determine where your talents and skills mesh with your passions and interests. Put your leadership in motion and move into that next phase of your educational career journey. Let me help you define your career path by having the right mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for that next leadership position. So power up and put your leadership in motion. Happy Friday and happy February to all you educators out there. I just want to say thank you for tuning in today. And I would love it if you would hop on over to Apple Podcasts or Apple iTunes and leave me a rating and a review. That way it helps me to get noticed and it lets me know that you're listening. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And I would love to have you over in our Facebook group, Empowered Educator, and you can join the group by clicking on the link in the show notes. You know, I remember back to the days when I was in school and as a student, not as a teacher. And I remember that the superintendent just seemed like this person that you would rarely see around the district, but you knew his name, you knew who he was. It was a man where I was from. And I knew who he was. I knew who he was when I would see him, but we didn't see him very often. And he was almost like this scary guy that you didn't really want to talk to because like he was the superintendent. He ran the whole thing. I really think there's been a positive shift in who a superintendent really is and what they do. I mean, they still do the same things that my superintendent did, but I think now they're much more visible in the school district, and they are not only more visible, but they're more accessible, it seems like. Or maybe it's not any different than it used to be. It just seemed like they were not accessible. It seemed like a long time ago when I was young that the superintendent was someone who was in an office somewhere and they made all of the rules for the whole district and you never really got to interact with them. But that has changed so much, or at least in my eyes, because maybe I just realize now that superintendents really aren't this elusive person that hangs out in an office making all the rules and dictating everything that happens, that they all have always been someone who's accessible and someone who is willing to talk to you and someone who is very vested and invested in what goes on in the district. But what does that look like on a typical day? What does a superintendent really do? What are their duties? What does a typical day look like in the life of a superintendent? Well, we're going to talk about that today. The role of the superintendent, that really is going to look different in different districts, especially in a small district where there's one superintendent with no assistant superintendents. When you're in a district like the districts where I grew up, in a rural district, there was one superintendent. There were no assistant superintendents. So The school superintendent did everything. They were responsible for every bit of the inner workings of the school district. In a larger district, they may be able to disseminate some of that responsibility to an assistant superintendent. Regardless of the size of district or whether there is one superintendent or a superintendent and several assistant superintendents, they usually get started pretty early because they have a lot of work that needs to be done. That's reviewing plans for the day, attending meetings, maybe with parents before school ever even starts or with other administration. And maybe they have to address some urgent matters, especially in the winter season. Right now it's winter, and I know that there are a lot of superintendents who are getting up at 3, 4, or 5 o'clock in the morning, and they are checking the weather. They're determining whether or not school can even take place safely for the day. Sometimes you'll see them in different buildings doing observations or engaging with the kids or engaging with teachers and parents. There's a lot of collaboration going on with district leadership, making decisions on educational policies and overseeing budget matters. During the day, they may be meeting with community members and parents and stakeholders, fostering those really strong connections within that educational community. As an empowered educator who may be ready to transition into a superintendent's role, you might have to hone those leadership skills. You may need to brush up on educational policies and make sure you're staying informed. And the best way to grow is to network within the educational leadership community. I cannot tell you enough how important it is to network in whatever it is you want to grow in. Networking is the way to do it because you learn so much from other people who have already been there and already done what you want to do. Moving into leadership of any type is usually because you want to affect change on a larger scale. But moving into a superintendency, it means you really want to affect change and guide policy change and do all of the things that can make your school's community run more effectively and more efficiently. So why would you want to choose that challenging path of becoming a school superintendent? And what does that look like? I have a few specific points that I'd like to discuss. Number 1, a passion for education and transformation. Superintendents, they're driven by this deep passion for education and the desire to make a positive impact on students and teachers' lives. They're committed to transforming schools and creating an environment where every student can thrive and be successful. And they figure out any way they can to make that happen within their budget. I have a consulting client district that I work with, and they needed someone to coach the teachers on a regular basis. It's a small school district. It's a one-man show for each building. There are no assistant principals. There's no assistant superintendent, and there are no instructional coaches at this current time. And they needed someone to come in and work with their teachers in an instructional capacity. So I was hired to do that. This superintendent saw a need and figured out a way to make it work within their budget constraints. They couldn't hire a full-time instructional coach, so they hired me as a consultant, and I am providing professional development. So they were able to use professional development funds to coach their teachers in instruction and help them be more successful and master their instructional practices. So your action step is to take some time to reflect on your own passion for education and see how you can contribute to that positive change in your school community. Number 2 is leadership and collaboration. Superintendents play a really crucial role in leading and collaborating with various stakeholders, including teachers, parents, other administrators, and community leaders. And when I say other administrators, I'm not just talking other administrators in your own district. I'm talking about other administrators in your area. This helps you foster that culture of collaboration and build those strong relationships to drive meaningful change, not just in your own school, but in all of the schools in your area. We are teaching the same kids, guys. We have to figure out how to make it a cooperative learning environment for everybody. We have to work together to close all of those gaps. So I want you to explore some opportunities to strengthen your own leadership skills and develop those effective collaboration strategies within your school community, within your district, but also outside of your district. How can you work with other school districts to make a positive impact in a larger way? What are some resources that another school district might have that you don't? And maybe you guys can work together to close some gaps. Number 3, a superintendent's role includes decision-making and strategic planning. Superintendents are responsible for making really critical decisions that impact the entire district. You have to be able to navigate those complex educational policies, your budget constraints, like I was talking about in point number 2, community expectations, all while staying focused on the long-term vision for your district and making sure your district is moving forward. So make sure that you're always sharpening your decision-making skills by seeking out PD opportunities that maybe address those strategic planning and problem-solving educational contexts. And number 4, superintendents are very much all about advocacy and communication. They serve as advocates for their district, promoting the needs and achievements for their students, their teachers, all of their staff, and they must really effectively communicate the district's visions, goals, and challenges to the bigger community and seek support for educational initiatives. Social media has gotten really big in the educational arena. Almost every district has a Facebook page where you can see the great things that are happening. You can see upcoming events. You can stay informed. I see school districts on Instagram, TikTok. There are so many different ways that school leaders can stay connected to the community and help inform the community through social media platforms. So one way that you can enhance your advocacy and communication skills is by exploring all of those different platforms, such as social media. Go to some community events for your school and other local media outlets to amplify the positive stories and accomplishments within your school community. The school district where my own children went to school is really good to post on Facebook what's happening. They are trying very hard to keep the community informed. And they also participate in community events in different ways. We have something in September every year called Pioneer Days in the town where my children grew up and where some of my children still live. And the school district always has a booth so they can provide information and keep parents and the community informed. And it's a good way to connect with your community and do that networking that I was talking about earlier. And there you have it, empowered educators. We've explored some of the reasons why you or someone you know might choose to become a school superintendent and what it takes to excel in this role. Remember, it's a journey filled with passion, collaboration, strategic decision-making, and effective communication. And it may have its challenges and stressors, but I'm sure that it is also a role that is super fulfilling. I have not been a school superintendent. I took my test. I was so close to passing it the first time, and I just haven't taken it since then because my passions and my interests kind of went in a different direction. And I started my own educational consultancy. And I love what I do right now. So I'm not ready to be a school superintendent, but I want to keep you informed on what that looks like in case you ever want to step into that central office role. Thank you for joining me today. Have an amazing weekend. I will see you back here next Friday, same time, same place. I hope today's show was a blessing to you as you continue on your path toward everything that God has in store for your life and your career. May the Lord bless and keep you. May His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift you up and give you peace. Bye-bye, my friends.